Keeping beats in time is a struggle for many. So if you need a helping hand with how to count semiquavers or 16th note rhythms, keep listening, as I'm going to share lots of tips that will ensure you can not only play these rhythms, but you can also execute them with control and precision. Hi, I'm Fiona from Learn Music Together, and I share videos every Tuesday to help adults who are learning to play a musical instrument play music better. Together, we'll grow and develop your musical skills. If you've ever been told that there's just one way to count semiquavers, such as one yanda, then you haven't been given all the information you deserve to know. In this video, I'm going to cover how to count a semiquaver or 16th note in various ways, because there isn't one way that fits all. It depends on the time signature, the beat, your level of ability, and the tempo of the music that you are learning. So often, learners try and subdivide rhythms straight from the off, and that's why they struggle to play semiquavers or 16th notes evenly and reliably as they progress. The best way to achieve accuracy is to practice slowly in the initial stages, which means breaking rhythms down so that you can play them precisely and accurately in time. There's a misconception that just because the time signature, for example, is 4/4, that you have to count in quarter notes or crotchets. When you begin learning a new piece, you can count in whatever beat you like. And I always suggest that you start by setting the beat so that you're counting in the shortest note values that appear in the piece. So let's start by taking a look at the mathematical value of the semiquaver or 16th note. Because for many people, this is where there's often a few gaps in the knowledge. Now, if you're in the UK and I ask you what's a semiquaver worth, you'll probably answer me with the fraction a quarter. And if you use American terminology, you'll most likely answer a 16th. But both of these responses are missing one important bit of information, because the value of a semiquaver or 16th note depends on what the value of the beat is. And it's the time signature that defines the value of the beat. A semiquaver is worth a quarter only if the beat, as defined by the time signature, is a crotchet or quarter note. In American terminology, the 16th note is always in reference to the whole note, but if you're playing in compound time, for example, the beats are dotted. In a 6/8 time signature, the beat is a dotted quarter note, so a 16th note is not a sixth of a beat. Hence, the value of the semiquaver changes and it can be confusing. So how you count a semiquaver or 16th note really depends on the value of the beat as defined by the time signature. Now, for the purpose of avoiding confusion, I'm going to stick with the term semiquaver throughout this video, as the name I think is less confusing as it doesn't have any connotation to a numerical value. So let's begin by looking at the value of a semiquaver in more detail with a few time signatures. In most time signatures, the value of any beat would, regardless of what its note length is, the value of that beat is equal to 1. But as I've just said, the length of that beat is not always the same in every time signature. In 3/8 time, there are 3 quavers per bar. That's 3/8 notes for those in America. So each quaver is a beat, and therefore each quaver is equal to 1. Now, if we're looking at how to count the semiquavers, there are 2 semiquavers per beat in 3/8 time. Therefore, the mathematical value of a semiquaver in 3/8 time is a half. In 6/8 time, there are 2 dotted crotchets or 2 dotted quarter note beats per bar. So each dotted crotchet is worth 1. Now, there are 6 semiquavers in a dotted crotchet. So in 6/8 time, a semiquaver has the mathematical value of 1/6. In 2/2 time, a minim or a half note is equal to 1 because there are 2 minims per bar in 2/2 time. Now, there are 8 semiquavers in a minim, so one semiquaver in 2/2 time has the value of an eighth. And lastly, in 2/4 time, a crotchet, which is a quarter note in American language, is equal to 1 beat. Hence, in this time signature, a semiquaver would have the value of a quarter. I know this seems confusing at first because learners don't fully understand the maths behind the music, which is why people find rhythm so challenging. Keep watching though, as I'm going to show you how to always ensure that your semiquavers or 16th notes are played accurately and evenly every time you play. When it comes to counting rhythm, there is a process that I recommend you go through in your practice sessions. Not only so that you can understand the rhythm, but also so you can encode the notes in a way that will ensure you get the passage right every time you play it. To begin with, you always want to avoid subdivision and practice counting in the smallest note values. To start, take a bar that has semiquavers in it and set your metronome so that it clicks once at 60 beats per minute. Now don't use any of those fancy metronome settings. You just want to hear one click every second. So here's a bar of semiquavers and I'm going to guide you through how you would practice this bar effectively so that you can play these semiquaver notes in time, nice and evenly and in control. Before you actually attempt to play the notes, you want to think about the finger combinations you'll need to use and just mime them a couple of times through. When you're confident that you know the finger combinations, we're going to start practicing playing the notes and using the metronome. Now we're going to play one note per click, and it's worth finishing on the first note of the next bar when you do this so that you can piece the bars together more easily later on. So I'm going to set my metronome now to 60 and we're going to have a go at playing these notes together on the screen. I want you to listen to how I'm playing one note per click on the metronome. So hopefully you could hear that I was playing one note per click there. Now you want to repeat the bar at this tempo a few times before being tempted to increase the speed. At this stage you can count one for each semiquaver that you play because you are playing one note per click with your metronome. So the metronome click, which is set at 60 beats per minute, is representing one semiquaver or 1/16th note. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, click. You want to gradually increase the speed until you get to around 140 beats per minute. Take your time doing this as the foundations you lay down in the early stages of your practice are crucial. Everything you do later is built upon the foundations you put down. So if your fingers aren't moving with ease and confidence at this stage, there's no way that they will at a faster tempo. So I would do a few repetitions at each stage before increasing the metronome mark by around 4 or 5 beats per minute. And as I said, you're going to work your way down to 140 beats per minute, which will sound like this. And remember, you want the fingers to be moving really confidently, neatly coordinating. You want to make sure that the tone is equal. You haven't got any sort of notes jumping out at you. So if yours sounds a little bit like, there's still a bit more work to do. You've probably gone a little bit too quick in the early stages. So really do take your time here and don't be afraid to go slowly. Once you can play one note per click at 140 beats per minute, you're going to reset the metronome back to 60. And now you're going to practice playing 2 notes per click. So the value of the metronome click is now a quaver or an 8th note. To subdivide the beat evenly into 2, I like to use the word coffee. And you want to say the word really militantly to the click and ensure that the syllable cough lands with the click and the syllable fee lands halfway between one click and the next. So coffee, 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 coffee. Make sure you're really saying those syllables clearly and listen to make sure the k lands with the click. Now you can see which semiquavers land on the click in my example as I've highlighted them in yellow. Now, subdividing the beat evenly may take you some practice, and I would record yourself vocalizing the word coffee with the metronome so that you can listen back and see whether you're placing those syllables correctly. Don't try playing the notes until you're 100% sure that you can vocalize the word correctly to a metronome click. There's a well-known phrase amongst professional musicians, you might have heard it: if you can't say it, you can't play it. So we're going to do the same process as before, starting at 60, but we're now going to play 2 semiquavers per click, and we're going to say the word coffee. Now, I suggest you say the word coffee out loud if it's possible on your instrument, because you'll be amazed at how much better your timing will be if you vocalize the rhythm as you practice. So let's give this a go. Coffee, 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 1. Again, you want to repeat it a few times at each metronome mark before gradually increasing the speed, making sure that each repetition is confident before you move on to the next. Keep a log of your metronome speeds as you go, because it's a good idea to take regular breaks. You should never aim to accomplish everything that I'm sharing in this process in one practice session. Now, that can be hard to take on board and hard to accept, as adults like to see a result instantly, and this method is more of a slow burner. However, in the long run, if you practice in this way, your result will be much better and you'll be able to play or nail those notes every time. So let's fast forward a couple of days, and you can now play 2 notes per click really well at 140 beats per minute on your metronome. So you're now going to put your metronome back to 60 beats per minute, and this time we're going to play 4 notes per metronome click. So the metronome click now has a value of a crotchet or a quarter note, and we're going to subdivide that click into 4 equal parts. And I like to use the word Piccadilly to do this. Again, you want to practice vocalizing the word Piccadilly to the metronome, making sure to really pronounce the syllables so that every time you say pick, it lands with the metronome click. Piccadilly, Piccadilly, pick. Once you can say the word Piccadilly and you've recorded yourself and you've listened back and you're confident that those syllables are evenly spaced, then we can have a go at playing our notes to that metronome click. Now, at this speed, you probably want to sort of say the word Piccadilly before you start a few times, just to get into the feel of the rhythm. Then stay relaxed and have a go at playing the notes. Piccadilly, 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 pick. And again, repeat that a few times, as many as you need really, to make sure that the fingers are moving confidently and the tone is really nice and even. And when you can play those 4 notes evenly and controlled at 60 beats per minute, then you can gradually increase the speed to whatever it needs to be. The method I've just shared with you is a fantastic way to build up your tonal control and evenness, either within your scale patterns or within any semiquaver passage work within a piece of music. Now, if you're playing a piece in compound time that has 6 semiquavers per beat, you can use the word tica piccadilly to subdivide that click into 6 equal parts. Tica piccadilly, tick. So you can see how it fits. And these are great things to do away from your instrument. You can have lots of fun vocalizing rhythms. There are, of course, many other rhythms that include just 1 or 2 semiquavers or 16th notes. And to master these, you would again start by counting in the smallest note values and gradually increase the metronome mark. So here are a few examples. So in my first example, you can see that we've got a quaver and 2 semiquavers, followed by another quaver and 2 semiquavers. So counting in the smallest note value, you would need to count the quaver or the 8th notes for 2 clicks on your metronome, because remember that metronome, when we first begin, is representing a semiquaver. So you would go 1, hold, 1, 1. 1, hold, 1, 1. Let me play that. 1, hold, 1, 1, 1, hold, 1, 1. And you would gradually speed that up to 140 beats per minute. Then you reset your metronome back to 60, And now we're going to count in quavers or eighth notes. So the metronome click will be representing a quaver. So now we say 1 coffee, 1 coffee, 1 coffee. And again, you gradually speed that up until you could play it at 140 beats per minute. And then you must reset the metronome back to 60. And the word that I like to use for this rhythm is ta-tika. Ta-tika, 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 ta-tika. And of course, I haven't added the first note of the next bar in any of these examples, but you would in your practice. Here's another rhythm. So this one's in 6/8 time, but it doesn't matter. We're going to count in the smallest note values. So we'll count in the semiquavers. So we'll set the metronome at 60. When we've got those quavers, those eighth notes, we'll say 1, hold, and then for each semiquaver, we'll just count 1. 1, hold, 1, 1, 1, hold, 1, hold, 1, 1, 1, hold. Don't forget to keep vocalizing those counts out loud if you can. I know if you play a wind instrument, that's not possible, but make sure that you're making an effort to say those words silently as you play, because that will really help you align the beats. Now, once you've got to 140, I think you're getting the idea here, you would half the metronome back to 60, and now we're going to play it with the metronome click representing a quaver or an eighth note. So we count 1, coffee, 1, 1, coffee, 1. 1, coffee, 1, 1, coffee, 1. And you gradually speed that up until you got to 140. And then the words that I like to use to fit this rhythm to a metronome is ta-tika-ta. Now you do have to practice this one because it's not as intuitive as some of the others. You could replace the ta at the end with and, but I like to just use ta-tika-ta, ta-tika-ta. And you've got to get into the rhythm of those syllables. So ta-tika-ta, 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 ta-tika-ta. So that might take you some practice, but once you can say it, hopefully, as long as you've done all that slow practice, you should also be able to play it. Ta-tika-ta, ta-tika-ta. And the more relaxed you can stay at these faster tempos, the better. Tension is a musician's enemy because it slows our coordination down. So if need be, if you're feeling a little tense, do a few breathing exercises before you attempt it again. And if need be as well, don't be afraid to go back and do some slower practice, especially if your fingers are what I call flailing around a little bit. You want that finger coordination to be really neat and confident. I've got one more rhythm to share with you because this is a common rhythm that you see perhaps if you play ragtime music, and it's a syncopated rhythm, so it's a bit tricky. It's where we've got one semiquaver and then a quaver and then another semiquaver, but we go about the whole process in the same way. So we're going to begin by counting in the smallest note values, which is the semiquavers. So it'll be 1, 1, hold, 1, 1, 1, hold, 1, 1, 1, hold, 1, 1, 1, hold, 1. So once you've gradually increased the speed, and you can do it at 140 beats per minute, we're going to reset the metronome back to 60 so that the click now represents a quaver. Now, to say this rhythm against the metronome click, I like to use coffee, click, and. And the reason I say click is because there's always a temptation to rush that quaver, that eighth note, when it's in between two 16th notes or two semiquavers. We need to wait for that click. That's the syncopation. So by saying click, that helps me align it much better. Coffee, click, and coffee, click, and coffee, click, and coffee, click, and. You've just got to remember not to play it on the click. That's the important thing. And then what you gradually build that speed up to 140, and then we're going to reset the metronome back to 60. And I like to use the word TK-A to vocalize this, where we're subdividing this rhythm into a crotchet beat. TK, a TK, a TK, a TK, TK, a TK, a TK, a TK. And hopefully you can hear it's got quite a skip to that rhythm. Make sure when you say in TK, you really elongate the A of the syllable, because that represents holding on to that quaver or eighth note in the middle. So TK, a TK. You don't want to be like tika, a tika. That's a different rhythm. That's a syllable of an A. In this rhythm, we're using A. If you like TK, a TK. When it comes to playing semiquavers with control and precision, this is just the tip of the iceberg, and I share many other practice methods inside my membership Learn Music Together. And if you're enjoying my YouTube channel and you're interested in becoming a member, you'll find the details of how to join Learn Music Together in the description below this video. Now that said, there is often a waiting list for my membership. I don't keep the doors open all year round, and that's because I really value my members. I like to give them my full attention and invest time in helping them grow and develop their musical skills. I'm very much involved in the community. I know all my members personally. I can tell you where they're up to, and I'll regularly create little videos to help them make progress in their practice, and those are very individual, and I can only do this if I get to know my members well. So I don't have an open door policy because that would be really hard to keep on track. So if the doors are closed when you go to that link, put your name on the waiting list and I'll be in touch as soon as there's a place available. And if you have any other rhythms that you'd like me to cover, please let me know in the comments below so that I can plan further videos like this one to help you make progress. Now, just before I go, if you haven't already grabbed my free practice tips guide, make sure to do so. You'll find the details in the description of this video, and you'll see a link on the screen right now for a couple more videos that you may find helpful if you're looking to grow and develop your musical skills so that you can play with confidence. Thanks for watching.